I'm going to demonstrate the importance of having a parameter for changing the sprite index of a sprite or an object in a sequence. In this example, we'll be creating a very simple cutscene to show after the final boss battle has concluded in our game. The hero character will walk on the screen, he'll stop and he'll read these directions, then he's going to walk forward, leap into the air, and save the universe. So let's get started. As you can see, I've already imported all the sprites we'll be using, created the sequence, and added the backgrounds for the sequence. Now, if we were to play the sequence right now, it's going to go blank after the first couple of frames, just because we need to drag these out to be the length of the entire sequence. This is a good spot to mention. It would be nice to be able to click and drag to toggle multiple things at once, either visibility or the lock. But for now, we will unlock them one by one. We will highlight them all. And we want to stretch asset key. This is with the right mouse button. And we'll relock those. Now we want to make sure that we have automatically record changes already highlighted. And we're going to bring our hero character right about just off frame so we can still see the arrow and we'll be able to move him easily. I'm just going to go through this relatively quickly. It's going to be a very rough animation, but you'll get the idea. So we'll stretch him maybe to about 150 frames. We want him to walk out, somewhere around here. He's going to walk out. He's going to stop. Let's try to get him a little centered here. He's going to stop and read the sign. And so what we'll do is now, first we want to line up his standing sprite with his walking sprite. So we'll do that the best we can by eye first. So let's collapse that for 1 second. We're going to, it would be great to have a command plus minus option to zoom in and out on the screen here. For now, we will use these bars here. What we want to do is we want to stretch his standing out because it made it only a frame. And we'll zoom that back out. So what we want to happen is we want him to stop, and when he stops, he's going to be changing sprites. So we just want to line up where that sprite ends and where the standing sprite begins. And it looks like we need to zoom in a little bit more so we can get a nice exact edge here. There we go. So he's going to walk, he's going to stop, and he's going to read the sign. We'll zoom back out. Now what we want to do from here, he's going to have read the sign. We should probably check our timing here. So he walks in. Let's give him a couple of seconds to read the sign, make sure he understands what he's looking at. And then what we're going to want to do is the same idea here, is he's then going to walk this way. He's going to have to jump and hit this ball here. So we want to use the walking sprite again, which will line up once more with his sprite as he's standing. Make sure that we're at the end of the standing sprite here. And we see that's pretty well lined up. And then what we're going to do is drag this the secondary walking sprite out. Maybe not so far. And we're going to want to have him walk maybe another 2 seconds or so, which would be about 120 frames, so somewhere around 370 would be good. And we'll have him just walk out this way. Let's see what happens if he jumps from here. So he's going to walk, and then from there we're going to have a jump animation. So what we want to do in this case is we're going to have to kind of fudge it a little bit just for the beginning and to get his trajectory of where he'll be jumping. So what we want to do is we're going to use his attacking sprite, which is going to be the sprite he uses while he's in the air. We're going to turn off keyframes here, just so I can show a demonstration. So he's going to jump, which is a separate sprite, is his jumping sprite, and then mid-air he will use his attacking sprite, which that will hit the ball, and that means he wins the game. So what we want to do from here, if he's jumping from here, is we're going to want to make his jumping, we'll call it an arc, but right now this is another good place to point out, to be able to curve position points right up here on the canvas would be, it's absolutely essential, and this is why. So let's go ahead and add a position keyframe to the attacking sprite. Now what's going to happen is we want it to create a keyframe. He's going to start from where he's jumping. Then we're going to want him in the air. So let's say he's going to finish the top of his arc about here. We would like that to also be a keyframe. And then he's going to finish and land somewhere around here. Oops, sorry. Let's undo that because we need to advance our timeline. And then we want him to land. So somewhere around here. So right now it's going to look real funny because he's going to leap in the air, and it did not automatically create a keyframe because it looks like I missed checking that again. So we will click that and he'll fall back to the ground. Somewhere around here. Okay, let's try that again. So he's going to jump. As you can see, his jump is very triangular for the mere fact that his position path is triangular. We don't have the option to click here and add smooth position changing, or smooth curving rather. So to be able to have an option here that says smooth curve would be absolutely genius. So for the time being, he's going to jump in this funny little triangle jump, and hopefully he'll hit his target. So what we want to do now is with his jumping sprite, we want to bring his jumping sprite onto the timeline as well to take over the first couple of frames here. So maybe up until almost the peak of his jump, we'll have just the jumping sprite. So that's going to replace this portion here where we're just trying to get the distance he needs to travel and the trajectory he needs to travel in order for this to be one fluid motion. So if we drag our jumping sprite onto our canvas here, we can start him maybe about here. And again, we're going to want to zoom in, zoom all the way in so we can drag this out. It's being a little finicky. There we go. So we want the jumping to probably last about almost the entire first part of the arc. So what we are going to do now is we want to line up the jumping sprite with the attacking sprite. And that way they'll move together. We can hide the attacking sprite. So he's going to jump, and then he's going to transform into the whip. So it looks like we're maybe one frame off. It would be great to be able right now to use the left and right arrows to go frame by frame so we can line these up very, very easily. So what we'll do is we just want that one frame difference. There we go. He's going to whip. Congratulations, he's hit the target. Maybe just for fun at that point, we'll take the sprite attack. We will add the image index, and we would like, at this point in time, for the image index to stay at, I believe it's 3. Nope, that would be 2. Okay, we would like the sprite index to now stay at 2. So he's going to jump. We need to actually set his image index here as well, so we'll actually animate his whipping. So we'll change this to 0. I'll give him a little dramatic pause. Then we'll change it to 1. And he's going to miss a little bit. So in order to make that line up, just for the sake of today, what we're going to do is we're going to unlock the ball, and we're just going to make sure our hero doesn't miss. So we'll just drag that down a little bit. So now he's going to whip. He's going to hit the ball on the way down. And when he lands, it'll be great if he could just maybe stand still for a moment. So why don't we add we can add the walking sprite one more time. That almost lined up perfectly. So let's just try to get him right about there. And so what we want to do here is we're going to bring in his attacking sprite. So when he lands, he's going to land perfectly fine, and he's going to hit the ground running. Why not? We'll have him he's going to land, and then he's going to walk off. So we will have him walk one more time. And in order for that to happen, we're going to open his position, make sure we have a keyframe. And he's going to take another approximate 2 seconds to walk off the screen here. And then that will be the end of our animation. So one other thing we want to have happen, just for the sake of our storytelling, is when he hits the ball, we're going to make the ball disappear. So that's as simple as dragging back the endpoint of our object here. Let's see how close we get there. So he'll jump, he'll whip, and he has saved the universe, and he walks away. And I guess at that point in time would also be a great time. Once he exits the screen, that would be a great time for the game to cut to black and make it really, really, really dramatic. And so everything will just disappear. What we would have to do is actually add another black background, but not going to worry about that. So he's going to walk in. He's going to read the sign. He's going to walk over towards the ball. He's going to jump. He's going to whip, save the universe, and the universe disappears. I don't know if that means he saved it, but that's how it works. Okay, so let's just play that animation real quick. And there would be music and sound effects, and it's super dramatic. And oh my God, he just saved the universe. Perfect. Everything looks great. So now, what I want to show you is just the sheer amount of layers that it took to animate him when we're using the same couple of sprites, as well as you can see how tedious it is to have to line up the sprites individually, because we're not using a singular object. We're using separate sprite objects that have to line up. And in animation, in order to do this quickly, all of the character sprites right here should be one layer. And that layer would be allowed to change the sprite index. So while he's walking, we just have the object stop here and we change the sprite index. So it would be a singular object that we control all of the position movement, all of the rotation, all of the scale, everything, as well as the sprite index. So you would have one object that walks up, stops, moves forward again, moves up into the air, and walks off, or moves off the edge. And then you would go in and you would manually change with keyframes the sprite index in order to make that a lot smoother of an animation. There wouldn't be all the trying to line up all of these little things to make sure there's no overlap, like there's a one frame overlap. And it would make it a lot easier on the animation side, as well as we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of animation just for this very, very, very simple animation. So when it comes to saving resources and keeping the layer count down, it's also imperative to have just a singular object that we can change the sprite index in order to keep everything organized